What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of On the House, brought to you by Roobet, our presenting sponsor. Today, I got my good friend and colleague, Joseph Benavidez, with us. Thanks, Joe, for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah,
This is exciting.
I know. I feel like we have so much to talk about.
Dude, there's a lot. I know we basically shot a podcast before we even started, so you got to pay extra for that, guys.
No, but one thing, I was going through your record again today, and
Yeah.
I remember I was a huge fan of Tachi Palace back in the day. I felt like that was the premier org, right? I remember
Yes.
Chad came through there, you came through there. A lot of the early alpha male adopters came from there.
Yeah.
And
God's country, Lemoore, baby.
yeah, you take a dirt road and there's this
Yeah.
beautiful cathedral of a casino. You're just
So
okay,
sick.
this is where MMA history is being
Yeah,
made.
that was the spot.
But you beat Maurice Ezel, right? That was his name.
Yes.
I think at that point you're 7-0.
Yeah.
And then you decide to make the jump to Dream. And I guess I
Yeah.
guess I was just kind of curious on that because I know a lot of the Tachi Palace guys. Tachi was known for the lower weights, right?
Yes.
And kind of segueing into WEC. So I guess I was just so curious on the thought process. Were you nervous? It's a pretty big jump going from a pretty small regional scene to, at the time, I think Dream was one of the major.
Dream was huge, yeah, and that was the dream for a long time. Dream was the dream, or Pride, because it was Pride before. And I always wanted to fight in Japan. I knew when I started fighting, it's I want to fight in Japan. I knew that was also a place for small guys to blossom. They respected the small weight classes, had the small weight classes existing. So that was always a thing. So crazy you ask about that specifically, because it was crazy. Because I was supposed to fight Kid Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know Kid Yamamoto, this guy was a legend. Still is.
He was ranked
Rest
number
in
one at the
peace.
time, right?
He was supposed to be just the most devastating, lightweight, lighter weight guy on the planet. It was always him and Faber, who's gonna fight who, and then I was training with Faber, so that was kind of the marketing of that fight. But to go back, funny enough, so with Tachi Palace, it's crazy. I went from a guy, Maurice Ezel, that I fought that was 3-10 to a fight with Kid Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Well, the fight before that was my second fight in Tachi.
Mm-hmm.
And the fight before that, I fought a guy named Jason Georgiana.
Yes.
Who's he's a coach now. Great guy. He coaches a few guys in the UFC. We caught up the other day. Great guy. Was supposed to just be a beast. I beat him. And it was weird. He went for the title in Tachi after I beat him, and I got matched up with Maurice Ezel. And I was like, how does that work? And I don't know, really what it had to do with my managers or whatever, or the fact that I was probably not going to really stick around and be the champion there. Yeah. So I fought Maurice Ezel, and that was funny because that really, I started really realizing, it's not an order in this sport. It's just kind of you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean because you did this, you're going to do this, or because you won this, It
doesn't add up sometimes.
Yeah, so I was just well, what the heck? I beat Georgiana. He's going for the title.
Yeah.
And what am I doing? And I'm literally just in Uriah's office, telling him that. I'm like, dude, what the heck? And it's some of these guys on the team, this dude who barely fights is getting paid this. Just kind of venting about realizing, oh, this sport's hard.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm sure you've had this a million times with everyone, right? Well, what the heck? Nothing's fair, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was saying that, and literally he's on the computer, and he just goes, what the hell? And I was like, what? He's like, dude, email. He's like, Dream. And then he's just asking if you want to fight Kid Yamamoto. In this, and I was like, dude, what? And I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to do it, right?
So they emailed Faber about you.
Literally as I was talking.
Wow.
It was so weird.
At this point, so were you making decent money at Tachi? Do you remember what you were making back then?
Oh my God. Not enough to not work at the gym. So that's what I did. I worked at the gym, front desk.
Yeah.
I did kids classes, and that kind of, paid my bills and stuff for me.
So with this, I guess it looks like you jumped on it before you even knew the pay, I assume. You're
yeah.
probably
I was I have to do this. I have to do this. And then, just so
and that would have been a payday? That would have been...
Then Dream?
Yeah.
Dream was the payday that really allowed me to hey, this is my job now. I'm a professional.
Okay, so that was
I
kind of getting you over the hump.
And that was, just to be upfront. I mean, we're this is what it was. That was $30,000. And I was thinking
And that was like what, 07?
that was yeah, maybe 07, 08.
Wow, so that's
Yeah.
really that's really good.
It was
money.
amazing. It was amazing. And I think that was win or loss, the way they do it over there as well.
So flat money.
I was probably getting maybe 8,000 at Tachi, maybe
Wow.
like 4 and 4,
Okay.
5, you know, 4 and 5, 4 5, something like that.
Tachi paid
Tachi paid.
pretty well. I mean,
Tachi was like that next level because they were WEC.
yep.
When WC had their events there, and then when WC got bought by Zuffa, they just made the Tachi Palace fights because the fights were going so good there, and the old Tachi Palace fights were sick. Old WC fights were sick.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that was it. I finally just was like, oh my god,
So,
now I
so
can
you jump on this, and I guess one question I had, the manager and me,
Yeah.
was like,
course.
where's their discussion? Like, should I go to the WC at this point? Obviously, you had the dream of going to Japan. I was surprised. It seemed like you just did a one-off.
I did a one-off there, yeah.
Which is crazy. I assume for the money they're paying you, they're like, hey, if he happens to beat Kid, we need to kind of have him here for a few more, whether to rematch or. I thought it was, I mean, whoever did the deal looked like it did a good job, right? I mean, it seemed like you got a one fight, got a good little payday.
Great payday.
Kid ended up getting.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Kid got hurt, right? So you're fighting.
Junya Kudo was his name. Yeah, so I didn't even get to fight Kid, but it was great because it was so promoted as like, because Faber was like the American lighter weight guy.
Yes.
And Kid was like the Japan lighter weight guy.
Faber was the guy.
But they could never fight because of contracts, you know? So it was like, oh, I was the protege of the American guy. And like, I'm going to go take on, you know, his rival or whatever. And so people tuned in anyway. And I got a late notice guy, still like a tough guy, but I shined in that fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't remember the specifics of that, but basically I know they didn't have me tied down. And I always wanted to go to the WC because I knew that was at this time Zuffa and UFC and kind of, you know, it was taking off. It was just starting to get in on Versus. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, so that was, I knew where I wanted to be. And they didn't hold me to a contract. And I got a contract after that with WC. And even that, going back to the manager and you, it was like, I had good negotiations coming in because I was like, I could stay in Dream, but like, you know, Faber was the guy in WC. So me being his guy was like, oh, it'd be nice to have him. So we had some good, you know, negotiations because I'd already got paid. So I did go in at a bit of a higher place. Like they put me on the TV card, you know, my first fight and paid me, I think higher than the starting, which was still maybe 8 and 8.
But I mean, I think that was really good because I think.
But I knew
2 and 2 or 3 was usual for WC, right? That was like.
Yep. It was maybe 4, maybe 5. So I think they maybe started me at 8 and 8 for my first fight. But that was one of those things like you see with guys. It's like everything kind of requires a sacrifice, and it's like I knew the potential of earning here was going to be better. The potential of exposure and earning would be here. So right now I might be starting at this, but I know I can turn that in.
So was
more
there,
than I could maybe turn in Japan.
The long play was better than WC.
Yeah.
Did you have any discussion with Dream, or you kind of got the itch out? I got the itch out. I got to fight in Japan. Now I want to go to WC, which was, I mean, at that time was really.
Yeah, they offered me I don't really remember the specifics, but I know basically after that my managers were like, well, everyone saw that fight. You did great. You know, the WC wants you. That's the goal, right? Here's the contract. I said, oh, Dream's not holding me back. So I don't know the discussion they maybe had with Dream, but there was nothing holding me back. And I knew I wanted to get into WC. So I guess it was kind of that. Like, I felt like I got the itch out. I fought in Japan. I witnessed it. It was crazy. It was cool. And it was just kind of a platform.
I remember being in law school. Remember HDNet?
Yes.
And they were covering
with
Dream
Boss
and stuff. So like I remember I specifically remember where I was. Like, oh damn, Benavidez is gonna go, you know, and I was all hyped up, you know. I was like, this is awesome, you know. And
you're from California and you kept up with Tachi and all that. So you knew these.
I knew all you guys.
Was sick,
I was a nerd. I was
That's
like,
the best.
Man. So the 30K, I mean, that's like your first real payday.
I couldn't believe it.
Did you buy anything dumb or
no?
Did you just kind of use it so you could quit your job and kind of just?
I didn't. So you know what's funny is I was talking about this. Well, I wanted to talk about it with the guys the other day. It's like I always like live below my means in a way, and I think you kind of have to in the sport. You know, you always know like, well, you know, this isn't going to be forever, and everyone tries to tell you that. You know, your managers, your coaches, hey, you know, save your money, invest your money. You're not going to do that. So I think I always just like took that to heart, and you know, I didn't grow up needing much. So I always saved it. And everyone at the gym would call me Scrooge McDuck. Well, Faber started because he always has the stupidest nicknames.
I'm
And
gonna
it'd just
save
be
that.
like,
I'm gonna save that in my phone. Scrooge McDuck when you call me now.
he'd always call me that. And he's like, dude just has a bunch of money, just stacking cash, swimming in his money. But like, he's still driving his 86 Lincoln Continental with like the back dragging. And I'm like, what do I need a new car for?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. You know what I mean? And then that finally, I rode it till the wheels fall off. And then even then, I didn't buy a new car.
Yeah.
I bought a used Cadillac DeVille, 2002.
Okay.
I'm a big luxury sedan guy. Like, my first car was an Oldsmobile Delta 88, the longest boat you've ever seen. And then I went from that to a Lincoln Continental, which I drove from New Mexico to California. And then when that broke down, I bought my Cadillac DeVille, which was a 2002. So yeah, I just knew I had to save.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I think it was more about like the American dream of like, oh, one day I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was kind of always what it was, saving my money in mind for, but also just to save my money. I didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have 30 grand. Like, I don't need a new car when I like this car and this car is fine.
So smart, because I feel like one of the issues in our sport, and I feel like NFL has it similar, where like the money comes in chunks, right?
Yes.
So then the fighter creates an overhead at the peak of where he received his money, and then say he gets hurt or say he doesn't fight for a bit. Well, then he's still having this X amount per month overhead, right? Where you had this big chunk. Maybe you could have got a new car payment, maybe a new apartment or condo. Next thing you know, you're living in that 30K per fight means, and that's not always going to be.
You're so smart, and I obviously connecting over these last few years and knowing you and how you take care of your guys, like that's exactly what it was. It was like, just because I have 30K, like I'm planning on making another 30K, 20K in 2 months, but like I need to know worst case scenario is I get injured for a year.
Yeah.
Then what am I going to do? You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm not going to spend all that money. So I always live like that, just knowing like, it's not like this. Like this could end right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what am I going to do? Or it could be a year. I could get injured and be out a year. How am I going to, pay my rent?
Was that first 30K, I guess, maybe the point you thought, okay, I can do this for a living? Was that sooner kind of taught you palace time? You're 5'6", you knew you're kind of like, hey, I'm good at this. Or was dream kind of like okay, I won this fight. I actually made a decent wage here. You know what I mean? Like I can.
Honestly, it was way before that for me. Me knowing I could do it for a living was moving to California.
With Faber.
Because I actually had 5 fights in New Mexico.
I saw that.
That aren't on my record, which annoys me because you always want 5 more wins on your record, and they're all fights, 5 finishes. So that's why I actually say I have 41 fights, because I do. But it was just back in the day.
I saw that in an interview because I was researching you.
Yeah.
And you fought, I think, New Mexico was your debut.
Yes.
So it says on the records, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Then you go to Colorado.
Yep.
And then it seems like the rest go to California.
Yep.
So there was 5 before that.
There was 5 even before those. Those were just like the 2 we could get back on.
Okay.
That helped out. The Colorado one was like a funny story too. Like all those were funny. You know how it was in the beginning of the day. Like, and I realized everyone has a story like that.
Yeah.
Like in those days, like my days of fighting, everyone's like, well, I had like 8 fights before that. I had like 10 that aren't on my record. And it's like, okay. But yeah, I had 5 fights on my record, but I basically knew I could do it. Like I've told this story, growing up on and making my way through my career. But it's like when I moved to California and met Faber, which was kind of like a happenstance event.
Yeah.
Like I was visiting my friend and like he had to work at night. So I was like, I'm going to go like search out this gym. I trained at a gym.
Weird how life works like that, right?
It was so weird, man. And like I knew of Faber and I was looking for his gym, but like Ultimate Fitness had just started. So there wasn't like a place. I trained with the guy and he was basically like, the coach of the place. And he was like, dude, like, I don't know if we can do anything for you. Like, you're too good. Basically, like, kind of telling me, he's like, I don't know, like, if I could teach you anything. He's like, do you know Faber? I was like, I know him. Where the fuck does he train at? Like, been trying to find this guy. Basically, he's like, oh, he just opened a gym. That's why. So opened that up. I trained with him. And it was just like me, him, and I don't know if you know Dustin Akbari.
Yes, I do.
Dustin.
Very well.
Crazy guy. So it was just like them 3 in the gym.
So Dustin was that early. I didn't know that, though.
Dustin was the only one there with him. That was like his jiu-jitsu guy, like his training partner.
Okay. I knew Dustin, I think he fought Itachi. I think he fought Evan Dunham, I remember correctly.
Yeah, he fought Evan Dunham.
I didn't know he was one of the first three.
Yeah.
But keep going, yeah.
He was they were the only two there. Like they were like there, and Faber was opening his gym. So I was the first one of like the gang of Mendez. I think after me was Castillo. And then I remember seeing.
Wow, you were before Castillo. Okay.
Yeah, they knew each other, but like, because they knew each other from college. So I remember seeing all these guys come in like, this is Danny Castillo. It was like freaking Remember the Titans or something. Just like, you're just meeting all the people. And it was just like, this is Danny Castillo, my old college wrestler. He's working a office job and he's going to train with us. He'd come in and jump rope, kind of like size everyone up. Oh, these guys are visiting from Alaska. That was like Justin Buckles and Scott McAfee.
Wow.
And they were like, they maybe want to train here. And then like, oh, Chad Mendes, seen him come in.
Yeah.
This is TJ Dillashaw. This is Chad Mendes. So I seen all these guys come in and training with them their first days because I was like the token guy, like train with him. And I remember people coming in and just being like, oh, well, Joe will train with you.
Yeah.
And then like, I'm like signing up people like at the front desk, like, he's going to train with me. I was like, they're like, okay. And then like I train with them and, do good.
Now looking back on this, then you were one of the first ones to show that system worked.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a good,
So you went through the Tachi pipeline, get the dream, get your payday, get in the WC, boom, look, we know what we're doing. We've done this at Benavidez. And then everyone else was like, well, dude, that looks like a good little play. We're going to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that definitely helped out.
Mendez went through Tachi too. And so did Castillo.
Yep. They all went through Tachi. Yep. It showed kind of the system worked and there was someone else because, like I said, I was literally the first one there, worked the front desk, did all that. And sorry, also to get back to the other question, that was kind of when I knew I was going to do it. Like I knew I was going to be good at it when I first did it. I was like, oh, dude, like this is a thing now. Like I always wanted to do this. Did it, right? Fought the guys in my community. I knew I had to do something else. So I went to California, trained there. Once Faber said, dude, you're just like living in New Mexico training. Like you need to move here. This is going to be a place where a lot of people are going to come. I'm going to build like a big house for pros. And I was like, oh, this guy who's world champion is telling me I'm good. And I just rolled with him. And, we were just, scrambling around like, all right, I can be good. So I kind of knew it then. And it's funny enough, I always talk about, which is our generation of like knowing like it can be a job. When I got the 30 grand, it was like, oh shit, like I can keep making this money. This is great. Cause I had such a small like idea of what I needed to do before that. Like, if I just make this much $1,000 per month, but this many fights, I can live off of that. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like you're just budgeting. But anyway, it was like the first Ultimate Fighter. Like when you see that and you see a guy get a 6-figure contract for fighting and they're on TV and they're winning cars, like they're rich. Yeah. But it's like, then later on you learn, oh, the 6-figure contract is like winning 5 fights over like the span of, but it gave you that idea. Like, I think that changed obviously the sport in general, but it showed so many people like, oh, this is mainstream. This is a job. This is something you can do for a living. So saw that, started taking it real serious. And then when I moved over there and I started training with people, I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. And then, but that dream paycheck allowed me to, stop teaching kids class and working the front desk and kind of,
living more of that professional athlete lifestyle, right? Exactly. Maybe resting in between sessions more.
All that stuff. Buying the right food.
All
the little things.
You get into the WC, I think like Jeff Kern was one of your earlier fights, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite fights. I love that fight. Yeah. Because that was the first fight that I won that I like wasn't supposed to win. And that's why I always love that fight.
Jeff, I think is a pioneer. I got all the respect in the world for him. Every time I see him, I don't even remember. I'm always like, dude, Jeff, you're one of the OGs. But I remember the time, that's a big win. That's a big feather in the cap. Like, especially, I think, was it your first or second? It was like a second fight. Yeah.
I'd seen him fight so much. And the reason that one meant so much because he was Jeff Kern. I'd seen him fight. He had like 40 fights at that point. Pioneer, like you said. And it was like, I was supposed to win every fight before that. Like, all right, I can beat this guy. I should beat this guy. I'm supposed to beat this guy. I'm like the up and comer. Yeah. But that one, it was like I was the up and comer, but now I'm facing this veteran that I'm maybe not supposed to get by, and had a really good performance. And
he fought Faber already, right?
He had already fought Faber. So yeah, that was my second fight in there. I think I fought Danny Martinez.
Yeah, remember that?
The first fight in there, which was funny enough. I knew him from a college visit I did with a friend a while back. He was wrestling at a school my friend was wrestling at, and like we had like hung out together before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was weird.
So you get the 30K, you go to the WC, you beat Danny Martinez, you get this upset win over Jeff Curran. At this point, are you thinking about getting your first home? Do you have your first home in that point? When does that really transition in to making that what you said was the American dream, right?
Yeah.
Which is true. We all grew up. We
It
thought,
is,
man,
right?
someday
Yeah.
I want to own a house like that. That's like you. Like this is you want someone to say that's mine, right?
Yes. That's a great question. Because once again, I was very conservative, very Scrooge McDuck, very like, hey, I need to have all this money. Like, if this stops, I need to still be able to like pay my mortgage for a year. And you know what I mean? So I was like, I saved probably well beyond my means before I even got a house. And then when you get it, you're like, oh my God, you have to do this pre-approval where you have this history of this and that. And, you know, so we have to work on that. So I should know this. I should know like the exact moment I got it since it was such a huge thing. I'm so bad with years and fights. Like,
was it was it early in WC? Was it midway or you already fought Dom once?
Let's see. I had already met Megan. I met her after the Curran fight. It was probably around like Dom Miguel Torres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Miguel Torres fight is one of my favorite fight of yours.
Yeah.
I love that fight.
It was actually probably after Miguel Torres.
Because you remember, I mean, let's just segue real quick on this. Like,
dude,
was it Fuel TV or no? What was
Versus,
it? Versus.
Fuel.
That's what it was. Yeah, but that it was Versus. They were hyping Miguel Torres up to be like
this mythical beast.
Yes, like it was just like this, and then you went in there and just like ran through him, and it was just like,
sick.
Dude, it was like blood and everything. You know what I mean? It was just like I was like, damn, Benavidez is a badass, like,
dude. Like a mythical beast. This guy sparred bears. He spars 50 guys at a time for 3 hours
remember,
straight.
He was like you though. He was like, it was like he's 40-1, but he also has like 25 fights done on his record. You know, you're like, what?
There was this mythical thing about him, and then he just looked different. He like didn't talk. He was very stoic, scary guy.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, like he spars people for 3 hours straight. Like, what am I gonna do? I have to mention this since we mentioned Miguel Torres. Funny enough, so I'm from New Mexico. I saw him. I was at the fight when he won his world title, not yet signed with the WEC. So he won his world title against Chase Beebe.
Yep, Chase Beebe. Yep.
That fight was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was training in California already, but I went back because Faber actually was like, I got to go to the WC. He's like, you want to go with me? That's your spot. And I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, like I can see some people and like go hang out. And he's like, oh, it's, you know how it is. Like, it's good for you to be around everything. So,
always.
So, you know, I went over there. Funny enough, I had an old girlfriend that I was dating, and I was like, oh, meet me in Albuquerque. Like, I'm gonna be there. Like, I haven't seen you in a long time. We met up there. I watched Miguel win his world title against Chase Beebe. Like, I'm just another guy. I'm not in the WC. I'm not anything. She asked to take a picture with him, and I'm the guy going up to Miguel Torres and going, hey, will you take a picture with my girl? And he like looks at me, you know, because he's just very like whatever. And he like grabs her by the waist and is like, this, you know what I mean? Like, let me show you a real man kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I just remember like kind of his like aura of doing it. And like, you know, I was like, took the picture. And then I was like, this guy doesn't know I'm going to fucking ruin his life in a few years. You know what I mean? Like, and I just remember like, I'm going to beat this guy's ass one day. And he's just like, you know what I mean? And it was just funny. And then it's funny because that changed my perspective. Anytime anyone like, any fan asked me, I would size them up and I'd be like, is this guy fucking coming for me? You know what I mean? Like, you want to take a picture with my girlfriend? I'm like, who are you, man? What are you going to do to me? And you know what I mean? So that was a funny thing. But,
so probably around that time though.
Yeah. But around that time because I remember I got like Miguel Torres gift, you know, in my house, like the shorts were bloody and like, you know, and I had like articles written. So yeah, it was around that time. Yeah, I got my first house in West Sacramento, California. I'm living the dream, and that ended up being like an incredible investment for me. You know,
especially in that time frame. I'm assuming it. You know, it probably gained a lot of equity, right?
Yeah, we broke records in West Sacramento for like price per square foot for that area. Everything like it was just so that's when
probably a good time too. Because probably when it kind of took a dip, I assume, right around that time frame.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah. I was, yeah, it was
in a growing market, in a growing space like
in a
Sacramento,
growing
which
space
was
like Sacramento. It was beautiful. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And then I remember, yeah, that was around the time I bought my first house.
were you nervous? I remember when I bought my first home, I was like, okay, I was so focused on the down payment.
Yeah.
And then like when the mortgage came, I was like, dude, I don't even have a sofa yet.
Yeah,
I remember thinking like,
oh wait, I have to buy furniture. I've spent all my money on this.
Lisa always gives me crap. She's like, when I first started dating you, that house was pretty skimpy. I was like, I was just trying to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if we had the lights on, I was happy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like, wait, I got to pay furniture. What are these closing costs?
Yeah.
Like all that.
But it went smooth. I'm saying you
Oh, it went
obviously probably
amazing.
had it planned out, right?
I worked with someone who's definitely like a mentor of mine and even just an inspiration to me in general. Tim Collum, best realtor, like one of the best realtors in all of California. But like better than that, just like an amazing person, sober as well, realtor, artist, and just like the best person. You know what I mean? And he's always somebody I like looked up to in a way also.
So he kind of guided you on the first.
Yeah,
on
he
the first
guided me on the
buy
first house and knew his that. And then, yeah, and then I guess like segueing into like kind of learning about stuff, I bought my second home because I had a girl I really liked that just moved to Las Vegas. Her name's Megan O'Levy.
Yeah.
And she moved from New York and she was renting an apartment. And I was spending a lot of time with her at her apartment. And just like, I knew you just kind of learn like, oh, well, rental properties are a good thing. Property's a good thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's all trial and error.
So basically, your first rental property was for a girl.
Yes. And
I'm not a girl.
Yes.
You're amazing wife.
Yes.
I love Megan
We
to
always
death. Like,
joke
huge
about
fan
that
of-
too. She's like, you bought me a house when I was just your girlfriend. I was like, well, I knew you were going to be my wife. And I'm like, but also like, I knew if you didn't become my wife, like you were just going to be my tenant too. You know what I mean? So
Well played,
it was like,
Joe.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I knew you were going to be my wife. I knew one day like that would be our house. And that turned into the house I ended up like proposing in on Thanksgiving, like everything like that,
So,
but it's
so
like,
you have so you have the first home.
Yes.
That goes well in Sacramento. You're already dating Megan at this time.
yes.
Okay. Things get serious. And then what's the time frame between buying the first home and the rental property for you, both of you? For
Yeah.
Megan, I guess we'll say. We'll call
Maybe a year, maybe a year or two.
Oh, so you were moving good then at that
I'm
point.
moving. Yeah, I'm moving. Like I'd been in my house. Megan would come down to Sacramento. We were dating for a while.
Yeah.
We've known each other for 15 years, which is crazy. And before
Oh, wow.
she
Oh,
lived,
okay.
yeah, she lived in New York. And then she moved to Vegas 13 years ago, and that was around this time when we started kind of dating, taking each other.
So in the WC, you've already purchased one home for yourself.
Yes.
End up purchasing a second home in Vegas because you're spending so much time here with,
Yes.
with Megan, your wife to be.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's impressive. Because I mean,
Yeah.
even then, I guess you were staying pretty active in WC. I think Sean did a really good job of
Yes.
keeping all the WC fighters.
Staying active,
Yeah.
Saving the money, just not spending on other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to say I knew I wanted to, like, I was again saving after my first house for like, oh, I know I can buy another like property.
Oh, so you already
like
got the
a
itch.
rental
You-
property. I
you
kind of
get the
know
one-
like, what do I need to like 20% of a
Yeah.
house, of another house, right? And I always kind of had that in mind. And it ended up just being the Vegas area for the benefits of that, having the tenant.
Yeah.
No, but like knowing Megan, like she was paying this rent, and I was like, oh, why don't I just buy a house and you live in it? So I kind of knew that, and like, oh, I'm spending time here. And then at that time,
She did get you to buy a house, bro.
yeah, I know
to
she
make this
did.
clear, dude.
Oh, we always make fun of it. She's like, yeah, he bought me a house when I was just his girlfriend. I was like, oh, I fucking loved you. But you know what I mean? Like, I also was like, I knew this, and it was like, dude, like.
At that time, you already had known though. Like you pretty. I'm assuming it seemed like pretty early in your dating with her. You knew that she was gonna be.
Yeah. And like, I probably wouldn't have bought a house for somebody else to live in. I like trusted them to like live in it and take care of it. If it wasn't her, and I knew it wasn't going to be how it was. Like, it was a done deal. Honestly, that was just the official way it went. Was like, oh, this is like going to be in my name, whatever.
Yeah.
We're paying it. Eventually, like I said, we got engaged there, lived there for a while. So, like, the journey of it, it was basically like I bought that house. I realized, oh, I have a good renter. Like that's going up. I would check on like, oh my God, like it's been a year. Like it's worth this much now. Like, oh, that's cool. My house is worth that much. Well, anyway, so now we get down the road. Actually, this is crazy. At this point, we're engaged in that house, right? We're engaged in that house. We actually, again, buy a house down the street. In Vegas. A bigger one with a pool.
Nice.
We needed a pool. And like, she'd lived in there for about a year and a half. We say, well, we need a house with a pool. There's one down the thing. And that was when I started learning, well, hey, we can afford that without selling this one. Like, why don't we turn that into a rental? And we rented that out. And that was when I kind of started to learn the like, oh, okay, like you can do this, you can do this. At this point, I hadn't even sold my Sacramento house yet.
So it was the second one that kind of got you in this property management type mode.
Yes,
or maybe the first one was just like, hey, this makes sense instead of you paying rent.
Yes, exactly. And I just was like, oh, that's a smart thing. And then it's like all those things oh, wait, and I have like this much of a loan on this one. Well, this person's going to pay it off while the value's going up.
So at this point, just because I know a lot of my fighters, I don't want to call them vices, but there's things they want to buy or like, so there was nothing in this point that you really materially wanted. The home was a big deal to you, right? That's the American dream. That was your dream. So really, you're just stacking cash.
I'm not like, dude,
being Scrooge McDuck.
Yes, exactly. Dude, and also like I'm a freaking square. Like I'm a square, bro. Like I've been sober for like 16 years. So I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any drugs or drink. I don't gamble. Like I guess food would be like my vice, and like traveling, Yeah. So it's just, I knew like I wanted to spend things on like, things that were valuable experiences. Yeah. And still, those were once a year, now, vacation or.
You said the guy's name was Tim?
Yes.
Was he guiding you through this? You just guiding yourself? Is there a mentor of some sort, or you just had?
I was actually kind of I would say I was guiding myself.
Wow, that's impressive.
I was guiding myself with kind of the encouragement from people of like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Not necessarily like hey, this is a blueprint.
You probably looked really smart to Megan right off the gate, right?
Yeah,
I'm a homeowner.
Like, oh my God.
Now I'm going to buy you a house.
And now we should get this other one down so we can get a pool and stuff. Yeah. I mean, it lucked out. And still to this day, I'm just like, okay, like, I don't know. It's just funny that, like, I guess that worked. But a lot of people think I charmed her like in an interview or something, but we met way before, so I had it in. That's actually a cooler story because then it's like, I'm the coolest of everyone she interviewed, and like she just liked me. But we knew each other before that, and then we kind of grew into, where we are now. But
so that was long distance, I assume, for a bit.
For a little bit, yeah. When we met, I was in California, she was New York.
Yeah.
Probably a year after we met, and she finished graduate school. She got a job here with heavy.com, a website covering UFC, to live in Vegas. And at that point, that was when I was like, oh, well, that's close enough where like we can see each other pretty often. Yeah. And we were still like talking, seeing each other random places. Oh, hey, I'm going to be in Boston this weekend. Hey, I'm going to be here. We were still seeing each other. But when it was Vegas, it was like, oh, that's like doable. Like, let's go for it. So, but yeah, no one was really guiding me, like telling me it was good ideas, and kind of like I had another realtor here as well, just kind of telling me kind of things like, oh, well, if you can afford the other one, or you're going to sell your house in Sacramento, like hold on to this one. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I rent this one out. Then I kind of started learning, and then what I learned from there was a lot of things that, like, even I was talking to your guys about the other day is the capital gains rules, the kind of owner occupied, things. So like for that one, I made an amazing play on these two houses my first times, and this is when I started learning, like, dude, real estate's crazy. Well, when I sold my first house in Sac, when me and Megan got married, I decided, like, well, I want to live in Vegas. Like, I'm tired of Sacramento. Like, I just need a change. I've been wanting to stay in Vegas. Like, you know how Vegas is. The more you come, the more you're like, I could be there. I could be there. So it was just always like pulling me. And then at the same time, just kind of like getting stagnant in my profession at Alpha Male.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, like a lot of people didn't like, oh, I'm liking this new look, new resources and stuff I'm getting in Vegas. So when I sold my house in Sacramento, that's when I learned that's when I saw a return on the real estate.
You're like,
the other ones I knew I was doing it, but I was kind of like, oh, this is a good idea. It's a long play, right?
It's good you bring that up because I feel like sometimes when I'm speaking to some of my clientele, maybe they don't see. I think you making that first sell in the first, you saw like, I remember when I sold my first home in California that I'd purchased.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh damn, like I made out pretty good in this
Yeah.
deal. You know, then it kind of got me into this mind frame, right? Like I feel like sometimes like with Bobby Green, right? Like I'm trying to explain to him, but he hasn't had that experience yet, right? He's purchasing and holding.
Yes.
But I had to like go show
And
him.
that's
Like,
the best thing you can do because those returns are going to be
1,000%. But
Yeah.
I had to go and show him like, okay, like you bought this for X. Now Zillow's showing Y. And he was like, oh. I'm like, see?
Yeah.
Like this is where the juice is, you know?
Yes.
Like, you know, like I one property in KC, I think I bought it 2 years ago. It's gone up $100,000.
The best.
I think my down payment was 50.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, I've gained what? Almost tripled it. You know what I mean? Like
plus what your tenants have paid off.
Yeah.
Plus
and I'm like, dude, this is amazing. So, okay. So you sell that first home in
It's
Sac.
a long-term game. And that's the thing is, you know, it's like, you're not going to be rich because you bought a property or even two properties. You know what I mean? And you might, you know, but seeing the return on investment, you need a place to live. You're going to live there anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like that I now have this chunk. And now
so much had happened during the WEC, right? Did you ever set a rule like every fight or two, I'm going to do this, or how did it work after that? Once you got the itch, like once you and Megan are crushing life.
Yeah. I didn't really, you know, I just kind of kept learning and I didn't have like a set thing. I just kind of, you know, I'd always wait and see kind of like I would always wait till after tax season and make sure, you know, everything.
Or maybe you got a bonus or
was
something,
good.
right?
Yeah, bonuses like that, you know, just kind of keep stacking, living below my means, not being reckless with my money, but having fun and enjoying like, oh, like I'm successful now. I can go on a vacation.
Yes.
I can fly first class or something. You know what I mean? Like those are the things when you talk about like vices, like those are things I'll spend money on is like, you know, just like the comforts of life. Like
always admire you and Megan and your travels.
Yeah.
I always feel like you guys are a little like a few years ahead of us just in like your journey of success, right? And so like I remember always watching you guys on social media and I thought, man, that's cool. Like they're traveling.
Dude.
And Elise, I think it's very similar to Megan where like she doesn't want, like she likes nice things, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
everyone does.
But if you want something nice, or do you want to go like she'll
experience?
She wants the experience more than anything. I feel like you guys have always like I think it's cool. Like I mean, we pick your brain every time we've gone somewhere. We're like, hey Joe, you know, like she still talks about the fried artichoke. Like she thinks like
the best.
She like literally like we got to go back there.
And I feel bad. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely bothering Jason. He's like enjoying his vacation, but like, hey, dude, you need to try this place. No. Oh, and in the morning do this, and I'm like, and I'm just like, I'm definitely being overbearing, but I'm overbearing like that. That's that's not a vice.
I love it.
That's my like toxicity is doing that, but it's like it all comes from love. Like I'm always like, you guys have to watch this show or do this or eat this. And it's just like, I just want everyone to like enjoy things like as much as like everyone that I love. It's like, I want them to feel that joy that I did when I did that. You know?
Me and Philly were talking about that. Like I always tell him like, I wish I had more people like Joe to care about me as much. Like you really, like I can tell like, bro, you got to try this. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. I'm like, damn, like he's hyping. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's all just out of like, I just want you to be happy as happy as I felt. And Feely's another guy like that. I mean, he's like that as well. And he's like, I'm like that. I'm like,
so with Megan, like she knew about, like she was on the real estate play too. Then I seem like, I feel like that's another important thing I wanted to like, discuss on this was obviously you guys have similar interests in the travel, which I admire. But then also I seem like on the business side of the real estate, it seemed like you guys have been quite the dynamic duo, you know what I mean? Which I think is always good for the athletes and clientele to hear is that being on the same page financially with your partners is probably a pretty huge. I don't know. Like I said, from the outside in, I just admire you guys. I just feel like she's been on the same.
It is. And, you know, it's always, you know, spending money on anything is always a discussion. And it's like she had seen the value from the first, you know, she was part of the first few and seen kind of what they did. And so she's always been on it. And man, she handles all the Airbnb stuff.
Wow.
Like, we're just, once again, as a team, it's like, I make like, I wouldn't even say like the actual decision. Like from the beginning, like, all right, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to do this. Maybe I find the place. I find the play. And she does everything. All right, I'm going to set up all this. I'm going to set up this. I'm going to get the tenant. I'm finding the property man. She's actually doing everything day to day with our homes. Like operational wise, like all day, including like self-managing Airbnb messages, automated services, sending things to the guests if something goes wrong, like handling issues with Airbnb if they complain or they have too many guests or a pet, like all that kind of stuff, on top of like property taxes are due here, or this is that, you know what I mean? Like all the little operational costs and everything that goes into it, she made our, properties like LLC, so like smart. All those little things that like, I wouldn't say like the smarter person would do, she does. You know what I mean? So the more organized, smarter person does, she does all that. So yeah, she's amazing. Like real estate investing, smart. She's found like a few of the properties, as doing it. But like I said, she's the operational head of like the whole Benavidez properties. Like she's like the boss of that. And so with the two houses, this is one thing I learned, which was an amazing play for me. Sold the house in California, and I was like, oh my God, like how is that? That's gonna allow me, okay. I get this other house. So I'm living in this house, renting one, right? And living in the other. These are down the street from each other, right? After about 2 years, we're kind of like, well, I kind of like this other place. Actually, I think what had I done? I don't even want to get ahead of myself, but I feel like I'd also bought the Denver property at this point as well. But I had already sold my Sacramento property. I know that. Actually, I had definitely sold my Sacramento property because I put that money once I saw that. So a lot of the reason I left Sacramento, well, all right, I'm going to live in Vegas. That's where I'm going to mainly train, right? I had trained in Denver for a camp, kind of getting my way out of Sacramento.
Yes, I remember
and
that.
I had realized, well, why don't I just have a place here if I'm going to pay for an Airbnb for months? And then that was my first Airbnb, once we were talking trial and error of learning, oh my God, like, well, when I'm not training it, I put everything in this closet, let people stay in it. Oh my God, this is doing really good. And that was where Megan came in, being smarter than me, more tech savvy. All right, we're just going to do this. We're going to go set it up. We're going to do this. And that's where she got it. And now that's what, that's another thing she does.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the best plays I made in my investment career is that the first house in Sacramento, amazing. This Denver one was amazing as well. But I lived in these two houses, rented one, lived in one for 2 years, moved, lived in another for 2 years, rented this one for 2 years, right? Well, I had lived, to be your primary residence and not get taxed on your capital gains, you have to live in the home 2 of the last 5 years. So I could sell both of these houses without getting taxed on a cent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. So when I learned the little tricks like that, is like, oh, and then I learned, oh, that's how, if I could go back in time, this is how people build from the beginning, is like live for 2 years, live for a year, keep going, kind of get into, right? And now I'm moving to a primary residence, so I'm not paying 20% on my investment like I did for the first house. I can get in for 3%, 3.5%, 5% if I want, right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning like, oh, when I'm moving and it's my actual house, I don't have to put in all that because there's not the liability from the lender and everything. So, I'm learning all these little tricks that, we've talked about and you've learned, I'm sure, along the way with your investments as well. So I realized that. I'm like, oh my God, well, now I'm selling 2 houses. I'm not taxed on anything. So now I'm going to move into, a house I really like and want to be in forever, which is the house I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And I can remodel it with the money because I'm not getting taxed. But I can also buy, another little Airbnb because the Airbnb in Denver is doing really good. And what I've realized through Airbnb, once again, trial and error, is like I can make more than the market rent on Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's a little more work, but we have the time to do it. Megan's really good at it. And it's like, you can make more than the market rent.
Yeah.
So, okay, like I could have rented this place. Well, now I'm making, double that, or, 50% of that more. So I was like, okay, so now I'm going to get into Airbnb. So with those two houses, I parlayed those through learning about Airbnb at my house in Denver, where I was just using to train anyway.
Yeah.
I learned, okay, the Airbnb game. I bought a house, remodeled it, which again, talking costs of just couches and stuff.
So now you have your dream.
Now I have a house I really like.
Yeah.
That I've lived in 6 years maybe.
Yeah.
And could parlay that into another Airbnb here in Vegas. And just like I said, kept kind of learning from there.
Because at this point you're in the UFC, right?
Yes.
Megan seemed like her career just went.
Yep.
So you guys are doing well that way, and then just using that to kind of really funnel these Airbnb opportunities.
Yep. Exactly. And then from there, that's when we kind of got into the, hey, like, I have a place in Denver. That was my first kind of out of state investment where I was like, oh, we can do that from somewhere else. We can do it from out of state. Well, where's a place we like? Well, not only a place we like, a place that would do good, where the numbers look better on Airbnb, vacation markets, beach houses, things like that. So it's kind of like, that was another parlay into like, oh, it doesn't have to be down the street, so you can manage it and have like a tenant in there forever. Oh, you can do this from a distance in Denver. You can do it, in somewhere we always wanted to buy, or somewhere where we know people are going to go, but we might never go, So yeah, it just kind of got into that. Another thing on the real estate education, like part that I learned is like I did, then I started, like when I would sell rental properties, I'd start doing 1031 exchanges, which those are great. And those are basically, again, a huge tax benefit, which is a huge perk of real estate in general.
Yeah.
If you do it right, but where you sell the investment property and, you take all your equity. So now you can move into a better property tax free. You don't get taxed on the money if you put it into an exchange and buy another investment property, so, you're in an Airbnb. Oh my God. Well, I want to get a better one now, or a bigger one, or I think I can buy two from that. You can sell them, put that in like kind of like an escrow, a third party thing. They're going to buy it from there. You don't get taxed on that money, or you withhold your taxes, but you keep building your real estate because that built. So you build into bigger without getting taxed.
That's what I was kind of thinking. It's funny you bring this up. I was talking to Lisa about this because, Kraus kind of put me on game in Kansas City.
Yeah, smart guy.
Had a good plug and play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Good realtor.
We would always talk about real estate as well.
Yeah, good property manager there. So for me, it was simple, right? Like it was literally like, I've never even seen one of the homes I purchased, Joe.
Yeah.
I've never even seen these things. I'm just buying them. Well, they're getting all this equity. And I thought, well, man, I could probably sell, I don't know, maybe I sell all 6 of them and buy, like you said, like something like, maybe I go get a nice dream beach house in California that I've been looking at. You know what I mean? Maybe when I want to go there for a week or two to get off the grid, I got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was but same thing, the 1030, like I wouldn't pay on the gains, right? Like
I'd
go right into something.
If you use that in to buy something of equal or more value.
Yeah.
And even if you buy less, I mean, you're just going to get taxed on that money that you didn't use. But you can buy something more.
But I was thinking, because obviously it's probably a little more pricey. Say, like you said, in a market like California or wherever I want to go, maybe even New York. We love New York. But either way, I could use, the gains would be eaten up in the cost of the house. And it'd be a nice, But it's funny you bring that. We were just talking about that the other day. We were at California. We got a beach house in Newport for her nephew and Diego.
The best.
And we were like, damn, we're looking at the prices. Like, I bet I could sling and just get something here, and then just, like you said, mark it out, and then just Airbnb with the rest.
Yeah, and it's a lot about it that like the game, obviously. And it's all about like building into more, right? And compounding these properties into more. Like one's not going to make you rich, but it's going to build your wealth a little bit, because now you can move that into a better property. Like if I had this condo, oh well, that made me all this money. Like now I can get into a house.
Yeah.
And through that house, you know what I mean. And you can just keep kind of compounding from there. So, yeah, it's the best with, good tax benefits.
So you've been doing this maybe what, 2008, 9, kind of probably did it in WC. This is a good, 14, 15-year play.
Yeah.
Throughout your whole career, you've been doing the real estate on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. That's
Meet
what
Megan, and then keep going with that.
Once, just like you talk to your guys and why I'm helping your guys, I'm so grateful for you and your guys that you gave me. So now, as I'm in real estate in Vegas as an actual realtor, advisor, whatever you want to call it, I have my real estate license in Vegas. That's why I got into this at the beginning. I was like, all right, I'm retired, bored as hell, just play pickleball every day and watch the same TV every day. And when I retired, it was like, okay, like I wanted to take a break after retirement, and you need it.
Yeah.
Right. But like after, like I'm really good at wasting time. I can waste so much time. Master of doing nothing. But it's like, even when that overstayed its welcome, I was like, wait, I wanted to do nothing, but this is not fun.
Yeah.
It's depressing. You're used to having value, challenging yourself, competing, being disciplined. It's like, you can't just sit there after 20 years of working out.
Yeah.
You can't just cold turkey and say, I'm just a dude now. You know what I mean? So it was like, I didn't really have anything I wanted to do within the MMA space, which I do a little bit on the outskirts of it. But like, anyway, there wasn't a lot of things I have a lot of interest, but it's kind of like, if I know anything practical, like practical that I can just do and practice right now, it's like real estate. Know about the investing part of it, would like to know more about it by getting my license and everything, have a good sphere of people I think I can talk to. And it all came from like, I would like to help people do this, because once I started seeing the value of real estate in my career, I just continued to invest in that and knew that was going to be my retirement plan. So I retired. It's all about a plan and seeing, how much do you think we need to, how much would I like to make to pay my bills? Okay, well, I'm going to build this many properties that make this much money, and that will be a good, that'll be a good play. And, but I can always sell one if, it gets to this and that. So, that is the plan at the end of the day. Whether you want to retire and you have no savings or actual cash flow to live on, and you're like, now I can sell the properties I bought, or you have all the properties making you money and it's enough to live on, or whatever. And kind of also, it's all about your needs as well. Like if you're playing a long-term game and just covering your costs, that's probably a long play. But like, if you want to do it as a job, you probably need a little more cash flow, or like an income source. You want to look at that part. So I kind of, balance my investments on a way there where I could retire and feel good that I could pay, my bills. But then once I got bored, I was like, well, I can help people with this. And if I'm educated and at least good at anything and know some people that I'd like to help, it would be this. Because one thing about me is like, I just want to like help. Like I care about like the fighters. Cause like it's shit's emotional to me, honestly. Like
that's why you're my guy.
Yeah, dude. Like shit's emotional. Even like when the flyweights, like we're going to go, or like, I just want everyone to be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to do this sport and be good after, like, that's such a focus of mine. Is just like, same as you. So I don't even have to stress it to you, but it's like, even like when flyweights are going to go down, I'm like, wait, like that means like another like small 125-pound Mexican guy like me just like can't make a living like being a fighter, like being an athlete, because there's no other place for a 125-pound guy to be a professional athlete, unless it's a combat sport. And now like that was gonna go, I was like, I live a good life because I got to do all this. And it was just like, there's another like Joe Benavidez out there that's like growing up small and just wrestling 103 pounds in high school, but he can't fight people for a living when he grows up because it's not going to exist. I mean, there's obviously boxing.
Some dark times.
So it was just all about that. So when I got the license and, the real estate, it was all about just like, I can just help people do that. And then it turned into a lot, I meet people at my new sport, pickleball, and, meet people all over the place. And, I just talk to people in general anyway. But, that was always kind of my main focus. But it's also nice because it's not like I have to, like we were talking about, like I don't have to be like, hey, we have to do this. We have to do this. You guys need to do this. Like I'm here to help people. like if they
That's like your sole purpose. It's not
want
even
the
to
help.
make the
Yeah.
sale. It's really
Yeah.
just to put them. Yeah, one thing that you taught me. Well, let me backtrack, guys, so everyone understands. So me and Joe, like we kind of knew each other in passing beforehand, or always cool. Never really had like a conversation. I think once with Feely, we went to Greens and Proteins or something.
Yeah.
But Cody Stamen was the one. We went to dinner after Cody's fight. Went to grab a steak at Cleaver, and he was like, "Hey, man, like, because I was talking about how I wanted to help my guys get into real estate, and I wanted to just ensure that my athletes were good after fighting. That's
Dude,
a big deal to me."
You're amazing. I met a lot of managers and not like you. Like basically when I met Jason, what he's talking about, I was like, oh, I should have been with him the whole time.
But Cody was telling me that you were on the same plight. He's like, "Hey, man, Joe's really trying to help a lot of these athletes out. You should meet." Remember, we go to lunch. He showed me the sushi spot. And obviously, we've done a lot of business together, right? Like, I mean, you've helped so many of my athletes have a good foundation for life after fighting. But one thing that you taught me, maybe you know this, like, I always assumed you were, like, Joe, like, to me, you were like the gold standard, right? Like, you had a 1% career. You coached on tough. You had success. I knew you were buying homes while you're thing. I didn't realize that life after fighting kind of hit. I thought like Joe already had this going on. You're okay. So when you retire, you're going to be happy. But it's still something that needs to be addressed in our sport is the mental health after fighting. Not not saying you had mental, you know what I'm saying, but just like
no,
you said, you're sad, maybe
even
a little
if
bit
you're
bored.
not saying it's
And you taught me that. And so now it's like, okay, one aspect is I'm going to get my athletes with Joe. We're going to do some real estate. We're going to put them in a good position financially. But I'm always going to keep picking your brain to how I can make sure my guys are mentally healthy and happy after fighting. Even if they are financially okay, it doesn't mean they're happy. Yes. Maybe I didn't differentiate the two when I first met you. I think you taught me that, right? Like, because I always assume, like I look at you and make like, man, they travel, they're having fun. Like, dude, Joe did it right. Joe ran a damn near perfect race. Like, I mean, you traveled the world with your friends. You got to do what you love. You met. I mean, I always joke around. Martial arts gave me my wife, my joy. I mean, like, it did the same for you, right? Like, you walked out of this with a bunch, you know. But I didn't realize that. I guess to say, make a long story short, like you taught me that. So now it's like, make sure they're okay financially. So do they get something out of the sport? But also make sure
that's gonna help.
It's gonna help. And, but also just like, hey, how are you?
Like
how you always do a good job of this. Hey, how are you? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, like
how you feeling?
How you feeling?
Something.
And anyways, you taught me that. And learned this too. Okay. And that let me know. I was like, gosh, damn.
That's amazing. You mentioned that. And you know, I don't want to get like, you know, weird or anything, but like, that is, I think, an inevitable part of retiring. Like now I talk to a lot of, you know, retired professional athletes at pickleball, play with them. And, you know, we have long conversations about it. And it's like, I feel like I'm out of the woods, but it's hard. Like, well, it's funny. I did the thing with you the other day, with the Iridium Sports Agency, the empowerment camp. And me and Ed were going through questions, and he's like, what was one of the biggest surprises about post-retirement, you know? And I was like thinking, and we didn't really get there. We're like the exact question, but I was trying to think. I was like, one of the biggest surprises, and like I didn't, once again, not want to make it weird, but like my answer was going to be, oh, I don't know, the crippling depression that like you don't expect, because it is, but like, and it is just, you don't really realize, like, dude, you used to just do this all the time and be super good at it. Now, like, everything goes on. No one really cares about that. Like, dude, this means so much, being on this podcast and like talking to people and socializing and like knowing people still care. Like, that shit's huge. Yeah. And like you just said, checking in on people, because a lot
you
of
do a great job, Joe. Like, I don't think you realize it. You do a really good job. Like, sometimes I'm guilty of, like, I'll just be like, I'm so like wanting to succeed for you. I'll get right into how can I help you? Like, let's talk about this home. Let's talk about this loan. Yeah. You always stop and go, hey man, how are you? Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe sometimes I'm too direct. Like, you're really good at that. Yeah. Like, and I know I watched you do it with Feely a couple times, because, you know, Feely's had he has ups and downs like everyone else does in this sport. And I always feel like you're always a constant presence for him. And I'm like, damn, like, I need to be a good friend like Joe.
Yeah. I think that's just probably from, you know, knowing maybe what I need, you know, and trying to provide that to other people. Like, even the part of the job is like, oh, this is how I want to be. Like, I'm sure even as a manager, you go through a lot of that. It's like, oh, I'm managing people the way I would want to be. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you kind of have to do that. But yeah, that was a tough part, and it's just, I mean, it's just inevitable. Like it's like a traumatic breakup, you know,
It is.
when
It
you
is.
go
It's like
through
an end of something.
that retirement, I mean, it's literally the end, and it's like you used to do this. Like it's funny, like I listen to sad ass music, like heartbreak music, but my love life is great and it's fine. I have no heartbreak. I am looking in relation to my fight career. Like the breakup is about my fight career. Like when I listen to this sad, like Taylor Swift song or so, like it's
Yeah.
like this heartbreaking breakup song. Well, the breakup in my mind is like I'm comparing like the girl in the story or the guy in the story
MMA.
to MMA.
Yeah.
Like that is my, you know, relationship I broke up with. You know what I mean? And it's just really, it's just really funny. But all that stuff helps, man. Like the socializing, like even this, like I was just telling Megan the other day, is like it's weird. Like I like when I go back to the fights, and it's nice to like see people and talk to people, and them just like, you know, being back in that space. And it's just like, but you know what's weird now is like I used to just love like, you know, catching up with people.
Yeah.
And it's like no one's hitting me up. You know, no one hits you up when you're retired just to be like,
Yeah.
hey, when's your fight coming up or how you doing or whatever. Cause like the sport goes on without you and everything goes on.
It's funny. I thought
So it's really cool. Thank you for having me
Yeah.
on. Thank you for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
no,
you know,
the feelings are
means a lot.
mutual. Like
it means
the,
a lot.
The
like,
guys and girls, they trust you to death, and you know, I appreciate you. And it gets, like I said, I'm glad because I always admire you from a distance.
yeah.
And it's cool that life after fighting, we've become closer than we were
Yeah.
when probably we were in the same arena multiple
sure.
times. Right? Not that we weren't
Yeah.
like friends or anything, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like we've gotten to know each other so much more.
Yeah.
But okay, so I always close out asking a few questions. I'm always curious. So
Oh, dude.
um,
Throw me some crazy shit.
if you could tell your 18-year-old self anything, what would it be?
Dude, that's hard.
It's a good one, huh?
That's really hard. Well, it's funny, like, I want, like, it's such a profound question. I want like a profound answer, but like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's maybe, I mean, maybe it's just something simple, like, you know, go easier on yourself or this and that. I mean, like,
Then that was mine.
you know what?
Like, mine was don't be so hard on yourself. It's all
Yeah.
going to work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's. I mean, and like I said, it is such a profound question. There's that, and then obviously there's little things like that you want to go into in events, but it's like all those things kind of like make you as well. So
Yeah.
you can't be like, you know, you can't have a regret and be like, hey, well,
watch out for this.
you're
or-
18-year-old, watch out for this, or in this
Yeah.
fight, don't do this, and you know this, you know what I mean, or this, and like, you know, it's, and it even comes back to like, oh, like, you know, call this person because they're not here anymore or something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, those are all life things that happen, and that, but it's I think it's a lot of that. But it's funny. I think it's like twofold for me. Like, you know, it's almost like don't be so hard on yourself, but also like be harder on yourself. Like take yourself more serious. Like, what do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
maybe in certain fields, right? Like
Yeah,
don't be
and
so hard on yourself. And
in
maybe,
certain
you know,
things, and then in other things, be
Yeah.
harder
Yeah.
on yourself. You
Um,
know,
anything on a billboard you could put to the public.
anything on a billboard?
You're on the I-15. You get a billboard. You can write anything on there. What do you put? Any quote, anything you wanted to, you know, if you have anything on a billboard, what would you put on it?
Okay. I mean, the stupidest thing came to mind,
No, run it.
and
I
it's
wanna-
really stupid. But I was just the stupidest thing came to mind. I was just gonna put watch. I think you should leave on Netflix because that's what I want everyone to watch, because then I have more people to talk
See,
to.
I
it
think
about.
that's perfect.
Yeah. And it's stupid. But then when you said a quote, I was thinking of like,
No,
this
anything,
is-
like
I'm just going to
anything.
add my question, like, because this is another question that I'm just pretending you asked. Because, like, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
people go, like, what's your favorite quote of
Yeah,
all
yeah,
time?
yeah.
And like that kind of when you said put a quote, it's funny. I'm just going to answer that because
Yeah.
here we are. And it's not something I'd put on a billboard. I'd put, watch, I think you should leave on Netflix, just so I don't have enough people to talk to it about.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. But, like everyone like will say, what's your favorite quote? And it's like Winston Churchill or something. Well, a guy fixing my fireplace one day in my house, I told him like, I was basically like, oh, that's cool. That's super easy. I didn't know that. And he was just this old Turkish man. And he's like, well, we all do what we do for a living. And after that, we rely on others. And I was like, the dude's literally giving me warmth.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's literally giving me warmth in my house. Like I'm relying on him for like
Yeah.
a necessity in life to like be warm in my house. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of a way I thought, but it changed my perspective on just anything. Like you're going up to, you know, a cashier, and instead of being rude, like I need her to like buy my food.
I mean, that's actually a great quote.
Right now,
if it went on a billboard, that's actually,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I need her to buy I wouldn't be able to buy my health drink and be healthy
Yeah.
or feed my family. Like if she wasn't here to like check me out and go through the whatever. So like, you know, and like, it was always just that. And then I just realized it's like, then I'm just like, well, shit, what do people rely on me for? You know, that changed me too. I was like, entertainment. Okay. I'm going to take it. We all need entertainment. We all need an escape, you know? So
I usually finish with one, but I'm going to ask you two because I know you're a big movie head. So,
I love questions.
So one song for the rest of your life on replay and one movie. What are you taking? I don't usually ask the movie one, but I have to ask you because I know you're a big movie head.
This is hard. This is a beautiful question. This is a dream question. One movie the rest of my life?
One movie. You got one movie on the TV on replay.
It's hard because I have a favorite movie, but it's probably
just go with the first thing in your head. What's the
but
first
you know
movie?
what I mean? Like I would probably want to watch something
maybe lighter or something.
Like lighter.
Yeah.
And
or choose your favorite movie then. Tell me your favorite movie.
Okay. Well, we can go twofold. Okay. I mean, like my favorite movie. That's another loaded question because I have decades. It's like I have like Raging Bull because of this reason.
80s.
But I have 80s. Well, Raging Bull would be in the 80s, so that'd probably be my favorite.
90s.
90s. There Will Be Blood. 97.
Okay. 2000s.
No. Sorry, that's 2007. Okay. I was getting mixed up. 97 would probably be Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Okay.
97.
Okay.
97. 2000s. There Will Be Blood. Probably. There Will Be Blood. 2007. 2010s. I'd probably go Lady Bird.
Okay.
Is probably my favorite movie. I really love La La Land as well. And those are two of the movies that came to mind for me of watch for the rest of my life, because they're light and they're like comfort movies that I put on all the time. And, you know, La La Land, you're going to get music, you're going to get heartbreak, you're going to get a little of everything. Lady Bird is just my favorite movie of that decade. So I can watch it all the time. But then it's like, do I need something longer, like a Wolf of Wall Street or a Godfather? Or, you know, what's a good one? A good answer for this would be the Godfather epic is the longest movie.
Yeah.
But it's Godfather 1 and 2 chronologically, in order chronologically. So there's 1 and then there's 2 goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, the Godfather epic is a 7 hours with 30 added scenes. And it starts chronologically at De Niro's Spartan Godfather 2 as a young Vito. And then it goes into 1, and then it goes into the other side of 2.
Good choice.
So that'd be a good choice because it's 7 hours. But yeah, those are my decades. Yeah, like Raging Bull, Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood. Well, I love Taxi Driver from the 70s if we're going there as well. But then like La La Land and Lady Bird are like my favorites.
Okay.
Movie I've watched the most in my life, probably like Coming to America or Blood In, Blood Out.
See, like I Coming to America is probably up there for me.
Yeah, because you can just watch it
and you just laugh
every time. Every time it's on, you'll watch it. Right? Yeah. It's the best. Yeah.
And then song, yes.
So that's a hard one for a song, because an artist would probably, you'd have to want someone that has a diverse sound.
Yeah.
So right off my bat, I'm thinking Taylor Swift or Kanye, and Taylor Swift is probably who I listen to most. But if it was just a song, it'd be really hard. I mean, I'd probably go like, I like sad music. This is going to be a weird answer for a song, but the first thing that comes to mind, just like, if I listen to a song, I'd probably get tired of just like lyrics all day.
Yeah.
Of like the same lyrics every day. So there's an instrumental song that is right amounts like sad and like peaceful, but also energizing. And it's called Maggot Brain by Funkadelic.
I have to check it out.
And that's just a good long instrumental that came to mind. Like if that played the rest of my life, I could just have it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I listen to like my favorite song over and over, which I have,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like I don't know. So that'd be a good thing. But one artist is a good one, and I'd probably
Kanye
go
or
like
Taylor.
Kanye or Taylor, just because I mean they're the icons of my generation and the best artists of our generations. But I'd probably go Taylor. I'd probably listen to her more. Anyway, I
Love
love
it.
that.
Love
I
it.
could talk about that shit like I'll go off. So
It's funny
anyway.
because I this is what I usually end it with, and I was
Yeah.
telling Lisa last night, I was like, Joe B's gonna give me some crazy answers.
Yeah.
I knew this wasn't gonna be a simple, straightforward like.
I'm sorry. I'm
No.
sorry, guys.
I love it. But anyways, guys, that's a wrap for our podcast today. Once again, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Roobet, and Joe B. Thanks for coming, man.
Love you, brother.
Love
Thank
too,
you, man.
Okay.
The best. Dude, that was fun. That was good shit.